We're headed back in this evening after that big buck we saw last night on that observation sit. We're coming in from the back way, and we're using this little slough. You couldn't see it in the footage, but that deer actually dropped into this slough and either went to the east or right down at the way that we're walking up this evening. We're looking for tracks, and we're seeing a lot of buck sign all the way up this thing. There's several of these little willow patches out here that are great bedding cover, so I'm going to be sneaking through there with an arrow nocked. The wind's up 20 miles an hour. He'd have a heck of a time hearing us if we're being quiet. So the plan is to get up there and get set up on one of those trees that you could see in the back of that video, real close to where he was bedded last night. So we're going to take our time. It's 2 o'clock now, and I'd say it's going to take us a good 2 or 3 hours to sneak up to the head of this slough and get set up.
I'm going to try to make it another 40 yards to that tree up there. What my fear is that we've got deer bedded within 40 yards of us right now. Luckily, we've got pretty high wind gusts that should cover us. But they've been hammering the edge of this wash. We just found a buck bed 10 feet from us right now. Very fresh. We're just going to have to crawl or move with the wind gust to make it that last 40 yards. And then take our sweet time getting the stands up. We could be setting them up with him bedded inside a bow range.
It's about 4:30 and Jake and I are finally set up in this tree. It's taken us a good 2.5 hours just to creep the last 100 yards to get to this point, but we're set up in the spot that we wanted to get to tonight. We're hunting that same deer that we saw last night from the observation stand about 500 yards across this field. He walked right through this opening and down to this slough. You couldn't see it in the video last night, but this is right where he went, and there's all kinds of tracks right down there next to the water. We've got almost identical conditions today that we had yesterday. Northwest wind, and it's blowing 15-20 miles an hour. It may be a touch cooler today than it was yesterday. My thinking here is that that buck was bedded in the edge of these pin oaks out here with wind blowing out of the pin oak grove and into this field, and he was watching this field. He got up last night and he headed straight for this slough. I think that's how these deer are traveling throughout these swamps, is they're hugging the edges of these dry sloughs. It's the only place where the grass is matted down, where they don't have to walk through a bunch of brush and nasty stuff. And they can walk down in that slough and be kind of out of sight from predators. We're only about 10 feet off the ground in this tree, but we're hid real well. And with all this wind cover, it should conceal any extra noise that we've got. Things are looking good for tonight. Greg and Brody are on the other end of the marsh. We're just hoping that one of us sees a mature buck.
Yep, I see him. Got him. While we were fixing to climb down, all we ended up seeing was a small 2-year-old buck. He came in, got a drink of water and worked a scrape, and then turned around and went straight back up into the bedding area. So I don't really know. Sean and Zach didn't see any bucks either, so I'm not real sure. But, you know, that's what you do. You observe one and then you go in after him, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you do it enough, eventually the stars align. They just didn't really for us tonight. But we got a couple minutes left here. I'm going to climb down and probably go pretty slow getting out of here. But better luck next time, I guess.